Hey, what's up everybody? It is Kellen here from Start Your Systems and welcome to another edition of Track Walk in MX Simulator. It is episode 199 today of Track Walk, and you would be kidding yourself if you didn't think I was going to do something Travis Pastrana related for episode 199. So that is exactly what I am doing today. I have found some things on the forums that I will definitely link in the description below. A Travis Pastrana replica bike that I believe was created by Tristan Botterum. Some No Fear gear, but I forget who made that. And then DDMX made this showy way back when. It was all Travis Pastrana related, but perhaps the most Travis Pastrana related thing of this video is the track itself, which is 2009 St. Louis. It was a couple things related to Pastrana. First of which, it was a track designed exactly as such by Travis Pastrana himself. Back in 2009, Supercross had this cool thing where there was, I think they gave 5 different riders the ability to design a track. I know Wyndham designed one, Mike LaRocco designed one, and Travis Pastrana designed this one, St. Louis 2009. But it was also the last time Travis Pastrana tried to race in Supercross. He obviously, if you don't know this, he was at one point a phenom in Supercross and motocross. He was expected to be the next big thing. I'll be honest with you 100% in this. I think if Travis Pastrana had kind of like settled himself down and not decided to go freestyle and all that stuff and somehow got his head in the game when it came to Supercross and motocross and put in the hours to train and try some, basically just try to win championships, I think the record books look a little bit different. Not so much so, but I think that Ricky Carmichael probably has less wins. I think maybe even James Stewart and Chad Reed have less wins. I don't know if Pastrana would have ever won a title because the dude crashed his brains out a lot, but there's definitely a lot of race wins that were left on the table because Travis Pastrana was kind of the wild child, and that's what made him really fun and entertaining in motocross and supercross. But he had pretty much already moved on from supercross racing by the time this race and this track design had come around in 2009. But it was his last hurrah in Supercross. Of course, we know it wasn't his last hurrah racing. He's raced Red Bull Straight Rhythm. He has done the Motocross of Nations recently with Team Puerto Rico and stuff like that. So he's come back and raced certain events and stuff like that. But this was his last real go at Supercross, which didn't work out. I think he crashed in his heat race, and then he was battling for the final transfer spot in the last chance qualifier when his bike blew up. But yeah, that was his last hurrah, and then obviously they raced this track, which was a really, really cool track, as you can see, like one of the more unique designed Supercross tracks in history. This was thrown right in the middle of like normal cookie cutter Supercross racing, and provided some good racing. I believe Blake Wharton won the 250 class that night, and Chad Reed won the 450 class that night, but it was really because James Stewart coughed away the race win. Stewart was doing this crazy line on this double Dragon's Back where he was jumping from Dragon's Back to Dragon's Back like I tried to do right there. And he got it pretty consistently, and somebody else fell doing it or trying it, but James actually fell in this really strange crash by going over the bars on the over-under bridge where he like missed a shift and tipped up over the bars on the tunnel. Very kind of odd crash, but anyway, that's kind of like a throwback history lesson for those of you that maybe don't remember this race or this track or anything like that. St. Louis 2009 is one of the most requested Supercross tracks I feel like ever, like when it comes to people who custom build tracks in Sim or now MX Bikes or Reflex or even, now in the track editor and Monster Energy Supercross and stuff like that. People love this track, and for good reason. It was such a mold breaker for the tracks at the time. Like I said, it was so different, so unique, so out there. And what he tried to do, Travis, with designing this track was create a track that offered many, many different lines. So insides, outsides, you name it, and Travis had thought of ways that it would work. And honestly, it did actually do quite well. I felt like not by the main event because I felt like the lines had developed, but during practice and qualifying for this race, I seem to remember the lines like every other practice like switching up. They would go on off in as a line in one practice, and then they'd jump over the table as a line in the next practice, and they'd go outside here and inside there. And so I think he did a pretty good job with that. And gosh, I really wish that they would bring back that idea of having the guys design the tracks, because I think that's a terrific idea, and I wish that Feld took them up on doing that more often. But I digress. Anyway, this track walk, like I said, should be 100% about Travis Pastrana, the man himself, the 199. It's crazy to me to think that, like, if you're, I mean, I guess if you're like 11 or 12 at this point, like, you maybe even didn't really live through the heyday of Pastrana. Like, you know who Pastrana is at this point if you're that age. But dude, to live through Pastrana's career in motocross and supercross, he had a crazy career where he won Motocross of Nations, he won a 125 Supercross championship, he won a 125 outdoor championship, probably should have won some 250 Supercross races, and was one of the most naturally talented riders I think I've still ever seen step foot on a track. Probably the fastest rider I've ever seen hit a set of whoops outside of James Stewart, which is saying something because Stewart can destroy a set of whoops. Pastrana was so gifted, so naturally talented, but as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, his kryptonite, if you will, in his racing career was that he always had his head kind of like, or his feet and his head like 3 steps out the door into other endeavors that he wanted to do, which worked out great for him because honestly, he's a bigger figure for motocross and supercross than pretty much anybody else. Like, I feel like you come across somebody nowadays and you say like, oh yeah, I like race dirt bikes, the status quo that they're going to go to is like, oh, so can you do tricks and stuff, and do you know Travis Pastrana and stuff like that. Whereas, like, I feel like for a while it was like, oh yeah, Jeremy McGrath, Ricky Carmichael, but now it's just Travis Pastrana, because he was such an icon for motorcycle racing in general, and still is. Like I said, he's still alive and he's still doing stuff. It's just that he's not as active as he was anymore because he's been so battered and beat up throughout his career. So like I said, if you're that age, like, it's crazy to me to think that like there's going to be people that 100% watch this video that really didn't get to live the Travis Pastrana experience as much as really you could have, because there was so much that happened from pretty much like 1998 until 2000 and I guess 2011-ish, where he just did so many different things. Obviously came back and did X Games in the 2010s and still does Nitro Circus and all that. But I'm telling you, man, like, jumping off the cliff into the Grand Canyon was a big deal. The double backflip was a huge deal. He was doing all the Red Bull New Year's No Limits things as well. I mean, it was Travis Pastrana to me, like, is a hero, really. I grew up kind of idolizing the guy. I've never seen somebody in life be as, I guess, cheerful about everything as Travis was. Like, even in some of Travis's like darkest moments when he was really struggling with Supercross or just, you know, crashing all the time in freestyle and stuff like that, I never saw that guy, like, to fans or anything else, like, be mad. Like, always would throw up the thumbs up, always would give you a smile. And it gave me, as a young kid at the time, like, you know, Travis turned pro, I think, when I was 6. And then, you know, I was pretty much out of high school when Travis Pastrana was, like, done being Travis Pastrana's craziness level. I mean, he still is crazy, but not doing all the, you know, I felt like every other day where there's something new crazy that Travis was going to do. Now he seems to have settled himself down with kids and stuff like that, but like, just so much of my childhood was developed watching Travis just do new and better and crazy things. And like I said, I kind of idolized the guy. I really did. I still do. I would be in awe if I met him today, even though he's the most unassuming guy ever from the people that know him that I've talked to and stuff like that. Such an amazing person, and obviously a terrific athlete and everything like that. And I just felt there was no way I could do an episode of anything with 199 as the title and not talk about and not do something Travis Pastrana related. Now, I did want to do something more freestyle oriented, but the problem I'm starting to have a little bit is I've already done a lot of the really good freestyle tracks in this game, the FMX round 1, 2, 3s, all that, and then like RF Fairgrounds and stuff like that. There's not really a ton of like awesome freestyle tracks, and I was hoping that I'd come across like someone who replicated Pastrana Land or something along those lines, but I couldn't. So I felt like this was a good compromise because I still had never done this track before, and I know people love this track. I apologize in advance that I'm probably not playing it very well. I really do suck on a 125 in this game. There's no question about it. I never raced a 125 competitively in this game, unlike my buddy Nate. And but I felt like it would be so unauthentic to play as Travis and not ride a 125. I guess I could have rode the 252 stroke, but I feel like the 125 is keeping me a little bit more leveled as well. And this track is pretty old as well. You'll find when you pick it up and play it, it was created by Barrington, but I think it was released in 2013, and Barrington built it to mimic the scaling and the basically how everything was built by JLV at the time for Supercross. JLV made all the Supercross tracks back from 2010 to 2013. So at the time, Barrington pretty much just kind of replicated what JLV did. And obviously the track is pretty small, pretty slick, things like that. So on a 450, this track would be brutal because it's just so tiny and so slippery. And the 125, like I said, keeping me a little bit more grounded. Like I feel like I could still pretty much do all the main lines that the 450 guys are doing, even on a 125. And I'm trying to hit all these inside-outside options as well, but I'm almost 100% positive I'm gonna miss one. And you guys are gonna be like, "Damn, I was waiting this entire video to see him take that one line." So I'm trying to remember to hit the certain areas of it. But yeah, I can't believe we're this far along in Track Walk that we're on episode 199. And on top of that, we're right on the edge of 200, which is going to be a big one for me. I have a couple ideas of ways to make episode 200 special. I have a couple track ideas that I want to use for episode 200, so I'm looking forward to doing that and kind of making it a little bit better for you guys as users. But definitely I would recommend, if you are a Travis Pastrana fan, or if you're not, if you just want to try all this stuff out, I'm going to have all the links to this 125, to this No Fear gear, this Shoei helmet, and the track in the description below. Definitely something that I would 100% recommend checking out, just to throw back a little bit nostalgia-wise, not only playing as Travis, but feeling how different the game was to play back in 2013. And like I said, this was so standard for Supercross tracks. So like the years that I always talk about were Tyson Fresquez going to battle with Jeremy Shipley and Jordan Vanderlee and stuff like that. This is pretty much the tracks that they raced on back then, and you'll see how different they are to what Jeremy Siebold, Alexis Leclerc, Jeremy Smith, Jack Haley, all those guys compete on in Supercross now, because Race Factory Gaming took over doing all the Supercross tracks back in 2014 and kind of revolutionized the way that the tracks are built, scaling wise, kind of the size and shape of jumps. JLV had a very unique style of building jumps where they're a lot more pointy on the top to kind of create this almost like anti-lift idea where you couldn't seat bounce it very well, but you would almost never go over the bars if you're a beginner player, because your front end would be so light comparatively, so your back end would kind of stick to the ground as it went up the ramp and gave you that extra little oomph. They're really great for beginner players. Like honestly, I feel like as tricky as the traction is these days, to get right when like the concrete traction of the Race Factory Gaming 2020 Supercross tracks versus this, I feel like if you're a beginner player, I'd recommend going back and learning these Supercross tracks before anything, because they're just so good to like learn the technique and the feel of everything. It's really all that matters when it comes to riding in this game. Like you shouldn't be too concerned with jumping everything. You should be more concerned with like being consistent, like doubling through sections and hitting lines and stuff like that. So tracks like this do a terrific job of that. But yeah, anyway, enough about that. Again, back on Travis Pastrana, just such a legendary figure in motocross and supercross. Like I said, I really would argue that he was probably the biggest motorcycle rider outside of street bike riders ever. Like in terms of dirt bikes, I think Travis Pastrana is the biggest name ever, which is always like such a tough sell to anybody in the motocross community, because they're like, no, like people for sure know Jeremy and Ricky more than Travis, but I don't think so, man. I really don't. Like I feel like Travis Pastrana is just a bigger household name these days, even though he hasn't, done much stuff in the limelight for years. He's not really doing X Games that much anymore. Obviously doesn't race motocross and supercross and isn't really around that scene. But I still feel like, I don't know, you ask any person, like you ask like a regular sports fan, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, Travis Pastrana, that guy's crazy, da da da. And then you're like, yeah, but dude, like Ricky Carmichael, he was nuts. And they're like, what's a Charmander, So like I know it's exaggerated, but I really do feel that I get more people asking me about Travis Pastrana when I say that I ride dirt bikes than anything else. But I'd love to hear whether or not you guys have that experience. I know everyone's probably got a different experience than I do. My lone Travis Pastrana experience, which I feel like awful about, that this is a story that exists, and I hope that I can change it at some point and actually meet Travis and like get to talk to him and converse with him. My lone Travis Pastrana story that I do have, though, is when I was 18 or 19, maybe I was like 20 or something at the time. My now wife, but then girlfriend, yeah, I don't think we were engaged yet, went to this restaurant down by the San Diego airport, and just so happened to be sitting down there like having a nice dinner with each other. Like, I'm all dressed up, she's all dressed up, we're just enjoying the evening. And Travis Pastrana sits literally right next to me, and he was talking to, can't remember his name, but it's one of the Godfrey clan people, but I forget his name now. I know if I saw the face, I'd be like, yeah, that's him, but I can't remember who it was. And they were just going back and forth and just kind of like, I guess he just got off the plane to San Diego and he was coming to LA or something like that for something. And we literally like sat there and just kind of like listened to their conversations, and at no point did we say hi or anything, just because I was in awe. I was like starstruck at the time, and she was, my wife, like, she knows about motocross and supercross very well, but Travis Pastrana is like celebrity status, so I think we were both kind of just in shock when that happened. So we sat next to Travis Pastrana for like an hour and just ate dinner and just listened to him tell stories. I think at the time there was something big that he was attempting to try or something like that he was trying to get down, and I remember listening to him talk about it, and I'm just like, man, like, this is such the coolest thing. Like, full-blown geeking out, nerding out. But if I met Travis nowadays, I would definitely be a little bit more assured of myself and go up and try to introduce myself and probably say thank you for the many years of providing so much entertainment for me and all of us as fans, I would think. He has definitely given us many highlight reels over the years, and if I'm being 100% honest, I'm a little surprised he's still alive, if that's okay to say. Like, I don't know. I always felt that, like, Travis always pushed the boundaries and the limits of everything that he did, that I just felt like it was going to be one day that I woke up and saw that he had passed from doing something. And I'm super glad that he hasn't yet, but it does bum me out a little bit to think about how many concussions he's had and how that's going to affect his life later in the years if he is able to live pretty long, happy life. I mean, we saw Muhammad Ali was like a shell of himself by the end of his life, and different circumstances, I know, but I think Travis has probably hit his head pretty similar amount of times as Muhammad Ali, because the dude crashed all the time. And I swear, if you ever watch modern videos of him like doing stunts, it doesn't look like it takes much for him to knock himself out. Like, he just kind of lightly taps his head on the ground and he's out cold for a minute, which is like, it's a little bit rough. But anyway, that's just sad Travis stuff. Happy Travis stuff is happy episode 199 of Track Walk. St. Louis 2009, a Travis Pastrana designed Supercross track that was actually raced in real life, actually a James Stewart Chad Reed battle that actually happened. Just a really cool thing. Really wish they would bring that back, having the riders do the tracks again. But anyway, enough about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. As always, I appreciate stopping by for another video here on Start Your Systems, episode 199, the Travis Pastrana episode of Track Walk, done and dusted. And I hope to see you guys in all of our future videos here on the channel. But this is Kellen signing off for now, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So long for now.